CC Cooper & Co is a 5th generation family farming operation based here at Jamestown. We have 6 properties in total across New South Wales, South Australia and Western Australia.
Tom Cooper from Jamestown, South Australia, and currently up at Wonga, Broken Hill, doing the annual shearing.
My grandfather was a shearer. He had 3 sons. At the end of World War II, they had about 1,200 acres, and that was split between the 3 sons, and my father ended up 350 acres. So the family shifted from Mount Pleasant, where they were before, to Bundaleer Valley.
So here at Jamestown we've got a mixed farming operation, which is our sort of home base, and then we've got a continuous cropping operation of 6,500 hectares on the Narung Peninsula, northwest of Menengi, in amongst the lower lakes and the Coorong. We've got Wonga Station, which we purchased in 2005. That's 135,000 acres. That's 50 kilometres south of Broken Hill. Broughton Vale Station at Little Topar, 75 k's east of Broken Hill, 77,000 acres there. Kuraby, which is a mixed farming operation, 150 kilometres west of Ceduna, and it's sort of a stepping stone halfway from the other property I haven't mentioned, which is Majura Plains on the Nullarbor in Western Australia, which is 1.7 million acres and 200 kilometres west of the Western Australian border. Our grandpa, Clary, always believed that producing multiple commodities was an important risk management tool. With that in mind, we've always tried to keep our grain production and hay production and our livestock-based gross income all approximately in balance, such that our gross income from those 3 areas is equivalent.
We chose to invest in the Broken Hill area because we were trying to increase our income through sheep, settler sales and wool enterprise, I suppose, to balance up the cropping area at Jamestown and good value productive capacity.
From 2005 to early 2018 we had a brilliant run at Broken Hill. No, it was just a matter of increasing the sheep area, but what had happened with pastoral land values in South Australia and Western New South Wales in the time since we'd purchased Wonga is that they'd gone through the roof really. And Majura Plains was a long way away, but it was relatively cheap per DSE compared with stuff that was closer to home. So a bit of a trade-off, sort of couldn't come at the value of grazing land for something we would manage easily ourselves from home, so we went a bit further away. Anything that we purchase, we want to make it pay for itself, like principal and interest, within a reasonable time frame. So really looking for something that's sort of better than 10%, if not 15% return on investment at that land value or value per DSE. We could sort of make that up, whereas pastoral country closer was a bit too expensive in our view to make it work. Total DSE target sort of that 100,000, 40,000 ewes plus followers, I suppose. But yeah, due to the last 3 years, we're well below that at the moment. I reckon we've got about 35,000 ewes on the books at the moment, but that'll end up coming back under 30, probably by lambing, I reckon. So just due to the fact that it's not raining at Majura Plains still, so we'll be selling a few more yet. Dad was very early on into objective measurement, but essentially we've been using a 7% micron premium index for a number of years, which is probably 50% on body weight and 50% on fleece value, with obviously a 7% premium for each micron reduction and increasing body weight. That said, I think our sheep are genetically getting big enough, and maybe we should be looking more at eye muscle depth and muscling or growth rate more so than just size. That's probably the next step, is to change that around a little bit. And as far as the physical animal goes, we want something that's
a big plain bodied sheep, clean head.
Got plenty of body length, a straight neck, it's easy to shear, intending to do fleece weight through longer staple length so it's not tight and dense and prone to body strike. And we really don't want excess wool around the points that are a need for crutching. We want as much of that wool weight to be on the barrel of the sheep as possible. We want ewes that are producing a lamb every year.
You have a ewe produce twins and even triplets that survive, and they'll also produce 7 or 8 kilos of wool in a good year. It's a remarkable environment from a stock nutrition point of view.
So ram breeding's taking place on Wonga and Broughton Vale. The ram lambs then weaned back to Jamestown, and then they are assessed down there as hoggets and then distributed from Jamestown. With the ram selection, we do most of the classing ourselves. We do get Justin Lyons in from Gum Hill and Ian Bradkin as well, just to get another opinion on the classing.
And this will become more of a ram breeding operation for our Majura Plains property. Also, if you're selecting rams in a pastoral environment where they're going to be used, it's probably an advantage from a selection point of view anyway. In terms of type of sheep, we're basically 20-21 micron wool producers, aiming at an easy care sheep, not very much wrinkle.
Our staff retention is pretty good.
Up to 30 at times, especially in hay and harvest.
Try and employ people that are more technically capable than ourselves in various specific areas, giving people as much responsibility as they need and suits the job. We tend to have a lot of repeat staff to come back seasonally for hay and harvest, and having to start with a new pack of backpackers, for example, every hay and harvest is pretty hard work. But if you've got a lot of regular Australian people that seasonally have that locked in, that makes life a lot easier.
And then when you get good ones, try and retain them. Giving them responsibility and just having confidence in what they're doing, that's probably something I've learnt. In the past I was a bit of a micromanager, and he's soon work out that you can't do that, so
Yeah, generally got employing people that share our vision, that makes it fairly easy.
So the business relies on managers, so we've got one manager at Meningie.
Pete's sort of started out with us in 2015 as a 21-year-old, and his attention to detail is exceptional. That's really important in a continuous cropping program.
Wonga station is run remotely with a water run person that comes as required, and then Dad's also comes up regularly to check things out. Matt Haynes is at Kirriby. Started Majura Plains when he was 17, I think, as a station hand. Finished up managing from 2012 until 2019, but with the kids getting up in school a bit, and we'd worked him pretty hard on that whole redevelopment program. Picked up that Kirriby property, that worked really well for him. And then there's also manager at Majura Plains, Tom Austin. He started with us in November 2019, right in the grips of the driest year on record, and it hasn't really recovered since for the poor bugger. He has a wealth of experience in running merino sheep and certainly goats as well. Not that we're running goats at the moment, but we're looking to move that way very shortly. So Mark Little's, he's our livestock operations manager. Stock agent background, he's obviously an excellent communicator, he knows livestock very well. And also feeding the sheep in the feedlot at Jamestown, and looking at marketing options. Very good to work with, which also means that he's very good for buyers to work with and stock agents to work with. So he's been a handy addition.
Two older ones, both want to become farmers. We insisted that they go and do something else before they came home. From 2001,
came home farming after university. Dad handed over management and decision making gradually right from the start, because if you're making decisions involved in the business, when you get more satisfaction out of it. Like the rest of my siblings, I'm a proud Jamestown High School graduate, and then I went on to a Bachelor of Ag Science degree at the University of Adelaide, followed by a PhD in plant breeding.
And David in particular, because he was 10 years in wheat breeding, used to do trial work across South Australia.
And then came home in 2004.
From Dad handing over some responsibility from an early age, it's been very good.
When I came home from uni, I became the co in CC Cooper & Co. is what actually happened. My father was Clarence Charles Cooper, he's CC Cooper. Two working together is much greater than they ever achieve on their own, because they bounce off each other.
A good working relationship between my brother and I.
His ability to logistically manage stuff really, really well. And picture where just getting equipment in the right spot, thinking through labour units.
We've taken on different roles in the business, but Seth's bigger on the big picture, more strategic thinking, longer term. That's probably the strength there, I think.
Tom will have the controls, but David's out. He's thinking blue sky stuff all the time. But they're extremely effective at working together.
So my sister Tara has come into the business doing the HR for us, so employee contracts and employee pays.
I used to do it, but too big for me.
My mother, Avril, has been a huge part of the business since day one, especially when myself and my brothers and sister were too young to help out very much. Tractor driving, truck driving, land marking, wool handling, always doing the shearing catering, and in the last 15 years escorting agricultural equipment. So Ali's always been involved doing the trucking maintenance management, power and phones and various things for employees to keep them happy, which is very important. 4 full-time truck drivers at the moment. One's my youngest brother, Evan. My youngest daughter, her ambition in life is to be a truck driver, so she just loves it. We installed the feedlot up here behind my house in 2016, moved to a confinement feeding situation, and it's worked very well. So often where the lamb won't see a stubble at all, a lot of the time they'll get straight off the truck and into that feedlot. We run a lot of fibre in the diet, and we're pretty much the Keenan mixer works pretty well. So total capacity close to 16,000. At Majura Plains, just to sort of help with the shearing, we've got a 24 pen feedlot, holds about 10,000 sheep. It's also important when we're trucking sale sheep because we can have them well settled on a good ration, and they're full of good dry tucker, and they just travel really well on that. They're full of feed, but they're not making a mess in the crate. Wonga, originally when we bought it, there wasn't a lot of polypipe in the place, there was some.
We got 14 dams in total, all interconnected with the polythene pipe, and we use solar pumps which we can shift around wherever we need them.
But obviously running it remotely from 400 k's away, it's pretty important to know that your water's right and spot a problem before it really becomes a problem, sort of thing. So we moved to Alpha Group in Keith.
So we monitor that remotely on our phone. It's their leak detection unit.
We can monitor flow rates, tank levels, and apart from that, we've got about 5 rain gauges as well because they're cheap just to bolt on. With Majura Plains, it's the same situation, although we've got full-time staff there at 135 k's wide and 60 k's north-south. Using flow rates and real-time monitoring, we can make a change and see within a couple of hours whether we've achieved what we want to achieve, basically. Combination of having flow rate and pressure is pretty important to know whether you've got a pipe busted or a pump down. It saves a lot of guesswork and a lot of driving. Drilling new bores in areas where we knew we had good water and laying 75mm pipe. 11 new bores, and we're using diesel currently pumping out of the ground, so automated diesel electric generators. We'd be very close to 1,000 kilometres of pipe we've laid now. It was about 1,000 k's of fencing as well, so it's been a fairly major job. Reason that we went to EID at Majura Plains was that was essentially all about returning sheep to their paddock of origin, particularly with the summer shearing, in that it's a massive place and it's very hard to get sheep settled if they're coming out of a shed at 1,500 or even more sheep per day, and they're going to paddocks 60, 70, 80 k's away is a massive job. So by having the EID, they're straight back out on feed and water out of the shed, auto draft them back into their paddock of origin, put them back into pens for paddocks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we can simply truck them straight back out, jump them off the tailgate, back in their paddock of origin, and know that they're fine. To make the process of collecting fleece weight, fibre diameter and body weight data more accurate on large numbers, we EID tagged all of our ewe hoggets in 2014, and that meant we could handle the whole drop rather than just the visual tops. Yeah, we're using the laser line Scan machine, and so using the little Allflex stick reader and a barcode printer, we can just walk up to the sheep while it's being shorn, print off a barcode. That stays with the fleece until the fleece picker-upper grabs that fleece, takes it to the Scan box, puts it in, barcode's read, and that's automatically a fleece weight and a micron straight into the computer. And then using an auto drafter with panel readers on the side of it, we can pretty quickly run through and obtain a body weight. But yeah, you can certainly do it utilising a stick reader, Bluetooth to a scale head. So there's virtually no room for error in that process. And then we can deal with the data at our leisure in the office. With Adelaide Uni, looking for the next step in flock improvement, and so we're DNA sampling all of our elite flock of ewe hoggets and last year's ram hoggets as well. Working on a genomics project with Stephen Lee down there, see if we can increase the accuracy of our breeding values. Current ASBVs have really worked on a percentage of your relatives and then their performance within a flock performance situation, but that's all based on probabilities more than actually knowing which portions of DNA have come from mum or dad or what's shared with your cousins. As we know, we're not just a quarter of grandma or a quarter of grandpa. By actually identifying the pieces of the genome that are conferring, say, lower micron or higher fleece weight or better yield or a faster growth rate, we actually greatly improve the accuracy of selection and the accuracy of breeding values that have been allocated. Oh, I don't know, proudest moment. I haven't really thought about proudest moments too much. Probably succeeding when others tell you you can't. Conversion of the Narung country to continuous cropping. That was technically challenging, the harvest moisture issues, all the rest of it. Had plenty of people tell me that wouldn't work, but it's worked very, very well. Pretty proud of that. And always pretty happy when we can present livestock for sale on a larger scale that are prepared well. I think the days of pastoral properties being wool producers, that if they get a few surplus sheep, that's kind of nice, and then the stock agent considering something to be station sheep or just station sheep. Sheep aren't station sheep, they're just sheep. And if they're managed and presented well, they're no different to anybody else's sheep. In the last 3 years, when we've had decile 0, decile 1 situation across all of our pastoral country, to still be actually being able to present surplus sheep or actually have surplus sheep, I guess validates what we've done with infrastructure and water quality. I think that's probably the absolute key, that if we hadn't had the vision to do that in 17, 18, 19 and Madura Plains, we would have had an absolute disaster the last 24 months, but we've still been in a position to be generating surplus sheep and selling surplus sheep. Probably the goats is the one thing where I think it just diversifies our red meat market a bit. There's a larger and larger portion of the sheep and beef meat. The export market is China, and that's not necessarily a problem, but I do recognise that no goat meat is exported to China, and it just diversifies the risk, I think, in the business a little bit if we bring a little bit of goat meat in and be able to utilise some country at Madura that's not particularly suited to merino sheep. Well, obviously we've been through a period of fairly rapid growth over the last 15 years. I have to talk to Tom as well, and Dad, and everyone else, but yeah, I think just consolidating where we're at and making sure we implement the things that we're aiming to do with technology, and part of the that sheep breeding stuff is part of that. And I think probably after the last 3 years of pretty tough times in the pastoral industry, it'd be nice just to sit back and enjoy the recovery that hopefully we get. Certainly getting that in New South Wales, it'd be nice to see that recovery in Madura Plains and just take a bit of a spell from it, I think. I mean, I often think about from where we've come from and the efforts that were put in over particularly the last 3 generations to get to where we are. And I'd certainly just consider Tom and I to be a link in that chain and making sure that we've got a strong and viable and diversified business for the next generation. And so that was my grandfather's aim, for sure.